Late meetings and quiet betrayals. Olivia's story of trust lost. Reddit true story. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never thought to question the late nights, the missed calls, the casual "it's just work" explanations? Have you ever sat alone in an apartment filled with memories, waiting for a door to open, for a voice to reassure you, only to realize the silence says more than words ever could? Today we step into the story of Olivia, a woman who believed in love, in loyalty, in building dreams side by side with the man she thought she knew best. She believed in the power of late nights spent chasing goals together, in the beauty of shared victories and quiet promises whispered over tired laughter. But what happens when those late nights stop being about ambition and start being about stolen glances, secret messages, and quiet betrayals hidden behind the excuse of just one more meeting? What happens when the person you trust the most becomes a stranger hiding in plain sight? This is not just a story about betrayal, it is a story about the small choices that break trust. The tiny moments that build walls where bridges used to be. Stay with us, because Olivia's story will remind you of a painful truth. Sometimes love does not end in one explosive moment. Sometimes it ends quietly. One unanswered text, one late meeting, one stolen smile at a time. Olivia and Daniel's story began like something out of a movie. Two ambitious young professionals crossing paths in the heart of San Francisco. Long meetings that turned into shared dinners. Coffee runs that turned into inside jokes. A bond built not just on attraction, but on mutual respect and shared dreams. They were unstoppable. Together, they conquered, project after project, climbing the corporate ladder side by side. Their love story was intertwined with their careers, a perfect partnership. At least on the surface, when Daniel was assigned to lead a major project, Olivia was his biggest cheerleader, proud, supportive, excited for what this opportunity could mean for both of them. That was when Claire entered the picture. Claire was everything the company wanted in a rising star, brilliant, charming, effortlessly magnetic. Daniel spoke about her often at first, praising her ideas, laughing at her jokes, admiring her drive. Olivia smiled, nodded, listened. She trusted him, but trust, like glass, once cracked, can never quite be the same again. The late meetings became later, the business trips longer, the excuses thinner. At first, Olivia brushed it off, told herself she was being paranoid, told herself that real love meant trust, even when it was hard. But late at night, lying awake in their shared apartment, staring at the empty side of the bed, the doubts grew louder than her reassurances. One evening, Daniel left in a rush for yet another urgent meeting, his laptop still humming on the kitchen counter. For a moment, Olivia stood frozen, wrestling with herself. But sometimes, when your heart already knows the truth, your hands move before your mind can stop them. She opened the laptop. At first it was nothing, work emails, project updates, and then, buried among the professional chatter, she found them. Messages, Claire's name lighting up the screen, messages that started with project discussions and ended with late-night confessions, inside jokes that Olivia was not part of plans for weekends. Olivia was never told about. Compliments that went far beyond the boundaries of professionalism. Her hands trembled as she scrolled, not just at the words, but at the realization that Daniel had not fallen in one night. It was 1,000 tiny choices, 1,000 moments he could have chosen her and chose someone else instead. When Daniel came home hours later, tired, disheveled, reeking of guilt, he did not know how to hide. Olivia was gone. No confrontation, no screaming match. Just a sticky note on the fridge. A quiet message, written with the last shreds of love she had left. Late meetings are not what broke us. It was the moments you gave away, while I was still fighting for us. Sometimes it is not one betrayal that ends a love story. It is 1,000 little betrayals stacked silently until the weight of them crushes everything underneath. Trust does not usually shatter in one violent moment. More often, it crumbles slowly, piece by piece. Under the weight of 1,000 small betrayals, Olivia's story reminds us that betrayal is not always about one grand act. Sometimes it is about the stolen glances, the quiet secrets, the moments someone chooses to give away, when they promised they would only ever share them with you. When Daniel started choosing Claire, in late-night conversations, in hidden text messages, in stolen smiles, he was not just building a connection with someone new. He was dismantling the home he had built with Olivia brick by brick, moment by moment. Trust is not just about honesty when confronted. It is about the small choices you make when no one is watching. It is easy to see betrayal as the final act. The moment you catch the message, the lie, the secret meeting. But betrayal often begins long before it is exposed. It begins when someone stops choosing you, when they start offering pieces of their time, their attention, their affection to someone else. Even if they tell themselves it is harmless, love demands presence, commitment, a daily decision to stay loyal, not because you have to, but because you choose to, over and over again. Olivia did not leave because Daniel made one mistake. She left because he made 1,000 small choices that told her, without ever needing to say the words, that she was no longer his priority. And in the end, sometimes leaving quietly, without demanding an apology, without screaming for answers, is the loudest and most powerful thing you can do, because some things, like trust, once broken, are not meant to be pieced back together. Olivia chose herself, her dignity, her peace, and sometimes that is the bravest love story you can ever write. The one where you choose you when someone else no longer does. Olivia's story struck a deep chord with so many people, because betrayal is not always about the grand betrayals. Sometimes it is about the little moments when someone stops choosing you. Let us take a moment to hear what the Reddit community had to say. Their words are filled with truth, strength, and resilience. Let us dive into some of the most powerful comments. Ugar Shadowed Hearts commented, "Trust dies not from a single stab, but from 1,000 tiny cuts." 5K likes. Exactly. It is not always one big betrayal that ends a love story. Sometimes it is the accumulation of small moments that slowly erode the foundation until there is nothing left. So golden silence too shared. When someone starts sharing their best laughs and best moments with someone else, you are already halfway out of their heart. 2K likes. So true. You can often feel when your place in someone's heart is shrinking even before you find the proof. Amir letters. Never Sent wrote, "Olivia leaving without a scene was the strongest thing she could have done. Sometimes your silence speaks volumes." 7K likes. Absolutely, you do not need to burn the bridge to prove your pain. Walking away with your head high is the real victory. Moving beyond. The pain said, late meetings were just the symptom. The real disease was Daniel's choice to build intimacy outside their relationship. 7. 8K likes. Perfectly said, physical betrayal is just the final step. Emotional betrayal begins much earlier and hurts just as deeply. Fading. Fireflies commented, "It is crazy how you can be in the same room with someone and feel more alone than if they had left." 80K likes. This comment hits hard. There is nothing lonelier than sharing space with someone who has already given their heart somewhere else. Thank you to everyone who shared their wisdom and experiences. Olivia's story reminds us that love deserves presence, loyalty, and honesty. If you have ever been in a relationship where trust eroded slowly, where you felt yourself slipping out of someone's heart, share your story in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, remember to like and subscribe for more real-life journeys of love loss and strength. Would you attend your ex's engagement party? Sarah's story of silent strength. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that even their absence still echoed in your life long after they were gone? Have you ever sat with a memory so heavy that even a simple envelope in your mailbox could bring it all rushing back? Today we step into the story of Sarah, a woman who loved fearlessly, who built dreams with a man she thought would always choose her. They survived the storms that life threw at them, or so she thought, until one quiet night, when promises crumbled not with a scream, but with a tired sigh across a coffee table. He said he needed space. He said they were growing apart. But some truths are only revealed after the goodbye. Weeks later, Sarah received an invitation. Not a phone call, not a message. A formal printed invitation to celebrate the future he was building. With someone else. Someone new. Someone who should have only ever been a footnote. Not the next chapter. What would you do? Would you show up and pretend you were fine? Would you smile through the ache? Would you let them see the cracks you worked so hard to mend? Or would you choose a different kind of strength? The strength to protect your peace. The strength to heal quietly. The strength to not show up for someone who had long stopped showing up for you. This is not just a story about heartbreak. It is a story about dignity, about the kind of courage that comes not from confrontation, but from choosing yourself over the need for closure. Stay with us, because Sarah's story might just remind you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Sarah and Ethan were the kind of couple that made people believe in forever. They met during freshman orientation at the University of Texas, bonded over bad coffee and endless study sessions. Two dreamers building a life, one late night and one whispered promise at a time. They survived the stress of finals, the ache of long-distance summers, the uncertainty of first jobs and tiny apartments filled with second-hand furniture, and first love. They made plans. They chose paint colors for a house they had not yet bought. They picked names for kids they had not yet conceived. They promised to weather every storm together. So when Ethan sat across from Sarah one cold December evening, hands trembling, eyes heavy with words he could not say, she never expected what would come next. "I think we are growing apart." 6 words that shattered 5 years of shared dreams. There was no fight, no betrayal she could point to, just the empty weight of a heart, no longer choosing hers. Sarah cried for days, then for weeks. She packed away the memories one by one, the framed photos, the ticket stubs, the matching mugs they had joked about when they first moved in together. She told herself she would be okay, that healing was not a straight line, but a series of small victories measured in deep breaths and quiet mornings. And just when she thought she was starting to stand again, the invitation arrived. At first, she thought it was a mistake, an event for another. Sarah, another Ethan, but the names were there in gold letters, his and hers, an engagement party, 2 months after he said they were drifting apart, 2 months after he told Sarah he was not ready for forever. The fiancé, a girl Sarah barely remembered, a girl who had hovered a little too closely at a party once, laughing too loudly at Ethan's jokes, standing just a little too close when Sarah thought nothing of it. Until now, the invitation sat unopened for days, a silent reminder that closure would not come in neat packages or polite explanations. Friends gave their opinions. Go show him you are better off. Stay away. Protect your peace. Sarah stood at a crossroads, one path leading to performative strength, smiling through tears at a celebration she had no part in, the other path leading to quiet dignity, to choosing herself. Even if no one else ever knew the choice she made, in the end, Sarah did not go. She did not send a gift. She did not send a text. She did not show up to watch him promise someone else the forever he could not give her. On the night of the party, while champagne corks popped and laughter filled someone else's version of happiness, Sarah sat by her window wrapped in a soft blanket, a book resting on her knees, a cup of tea growing cold. Beside her, and for the first time in months, she smiled. Not because she won, not because she wanted revenge, but because she realized the true victory was choosing not to fight for a place in someone's life when they had already chosen to build a life without her. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is not showing up at all. Sometimes closure does not come with a conversation. Sometimes closure is found in the quiet decisions we make for ourselves, the ones no one sees, the ones that do not get applause, but heal us from the inside out. Sarah's story reminds us that moving on is not always about big victories. Sometimes it is about choosing not to reopen wounds that never deserved to be reopened in the first place. It would have been easy for Sarah to go to the engagement party, to dress up, to smile through the ache, to pretend that she was unaffected. But real strength is not about performing for the world. Real strength is knowing when protecting your peace is more important than proving a point. There is a part of us that craves validation, that wants to be seen, to be recognized, to show those who hurt us that we survived. But healing, true healing, is quiet. It does not need an audience. It does not need witnesses. It needs honesty. It needs courage. The courage to say, I do not need to be seen by you to know that I am whole. Sarah understood something that many people take years to realize. You do not heal by standing in the room that broke. You heal by walking past it, by choosing not to step back into the places that made you doubt your worth. She did not go to the party, not because she was bitter, not because she was afraid. She stayed away because she finally understood that her value was never tied to being chosen by someone else, that her worth was not determined by the role she played in Ethan's new life, but by the life she was quietly rebuilding for herself. And in the end, sometimes the most powerful goodbye is the one you never have to say out loud, because healing is not about showing the world you moved on. It is about looking in the mirror, smiling to yourself, and knowing that you finally did. Sarah's story resonated with so many people, because sometimes the strongest battles are fought in silence, not in arguments, not in confrontations, but in the quiet moments where we choose ourselves without asking for permission. Let us take a moment to hear what the Reddit community shared about her journey. Their words are raw, honest, and deeply powerful. They're brave. In the silence commented, choosing not to go was her final act of love for herself. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is stay silent. 7K likes. Exactly. Strength is not always in showing up. Sometimes it is in walking away without needing to explain yourself to anyone. Force still. Healing heart shared. He closed the chapter when he left. She closed the book when she refused to attend. 8. 1K likes. So well-said closure is not about begging for a seat at someone else's new table. It is about building your own. Silent, Goodbye Tweet 3 wrote, "She did not lose him, she found herself." 8K likes. Beautifully put. Sometimes what feels like losing someone is actually winning your freedom back. Who rising from? Ashes99 said, "An invitation to their engagement party was never about kindness. It was about easing guilt. She owed him nothing." 6K likes. Hey, absolutely. Sometimes invitations are not gestures of peace. They are a way for people to feel less guilty about the way they left. To finding peace. Alone commented, "Healing is choosing yourself even when nobody claps for you." She chose herself, and that is the real win. 4K likes. So true, healing is often quiet, unseen, and deeply personal. Sarah's choice was a silent but powerful victory. Thank you to everyone who shared their beautiful and powerful thoughts. Sarah's story reminds us all that strength does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the quiet decisions we make for ourselves. If you have ever faced a moment where you chose your peace over proving a point, share your story in the comments below. And if this journey touched your heart, remember to like and subscribe for more real-life stories about love loss and finding yourself again. Would you stay if they wrote a new song without you? Madison's Silent Goodbye. Have you ever built a dream with someone, piece by piece, note by note, only to wake up one day and realize they had started writing a new story without you? Have you ever been part of a love song, only to find out the melody was meant for someone else? Today, we step into the story of Madison, a woman who believed in love built from late nights, cheap coffee, and whispered dreams across broken guitars. She stood in the front row of every stage he sang on, cheered for every small victory, held on to every promise made under the bright Nashville stars. Madison believed that love was about patience, about loyalty, about staying when the world asked you to leave. But sometimes love does not break all at once. Sometimes it unravels slowly, in the missed calls, in the half-smiles, in the songs that start to sound like they are written for someone else. What would you do? If the person you loved started singing someone else's name, would you fight for your place in a song that no longer held your story? Or would you find the strength to walk off the stage before the final note faded away? This is not just a story about heartbreak. It is about the quiet moments when we realize that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is stop dancing to a song that was never really written for us. Stay with us, because Madison's story will remind you that real strength is not always about holding on. Sometimes it is about knowing exactly when to let go. Madison and Luke's story was written in the language of music. It started with late-night jam sessions, guitar strings worn thin from endless practice, lyrics scribbled on the backs of diner receipts. Dreams whispered between two hearts, too young to know just how fragile they were. They built a world together, a world filled with open mics and cheap takeout, with promises that one day they would make it big together. When Luke got his first real break, it felt like their dreams were finally taking shape. Madison was there for every small victory. She helped him rehearse. She cheered the loudest in the smallest crowds. She believed in him when no one else did. But dreams have a cost. Success crept in slowly, like a sweet poison, changing everything without warning. The late-night calls from the road became texts left unanswered. The inside, jokes they used to share faded into awkward silences. And then there were the photos, Luke smiling wide at crowded after-parties, standing a little too close to a new circle of people. Always with a guitar slung over his shoulder, always with that one girl near him. Madison tried to tell herself it was nothing, that it was all part of the image, part of the life they had chased together. Until the night she found the video. It was just another scroll through Instagram, another attempt to feel close to a world she no longer recognized. Luke stood on a stage, bathed in lights, a new song on his lips, a love song. The words were beautiful, the melody haunting, but they were not for her. She could feel it in the way he sang, in the way his eyes searched the crowd and found someone else. The camera panned across the audience, and there she was, the girl from the photos, swaying to the rhythm, mouthing every word, looking at Luke like he was her whole world. In that moment, Madison felt something inside her break, not with anger, not with rage, but with a quiet, bone-deep sadness. The realization that she had been written out of a story she thought they were still writing together. The next morning, Madison did not yell, did not cry. She packed the few things Luke had left behind, the spare jacket, the old guitar picks, the worn notebook they used to share. She placed them gently by the door. No notes, no confrontation. Because sometimes, when someone has already chosen to sing a new song, you do not beg to be part of the chorus. You step off the stage. You let the music fade, and you start writing your own melody again, one that is yours alone. Sometimes love does not end with a slam of a door or a final tearful goodbye. Sometimes love fades away quietly, note by note, until you wake up one day and realize you are no longer part of the song you helped write. Madison's story is not just about heartbreak. It is about recognition. The painful moment when you realize you are holding on to a version of someone who no longer exists. She gave Luke everything. Her time, her belief, her dreams. She stood by him through empty bars and unpaid gigs, through rejections and endless nights of doubt. She was there for the climb. But when success came, he forgot who helped him build the ladder. It is easy to romanticize the journey, to tell ourselves that the people we love will always remember, will always stay loyal to the ones who cheered for them before the world ever knew their name. But sometimes the spotlight changes people. Sometimes it reveals what was broken long before the fame. When Luke sang that song, he was not just singing for someone else. He was erasing the story he and Madison had written together, line by line, chord by chord. And Madison, in the most silent act of courage, chose not to fight for a place in a song that was no longer hers. There is a kind of bravery in letting go without burning everything down. A kind of strength in realizing that you do not have to audition for a role you were never meant to play anymore. Madison packed up the pieces of a love story that had ended long before she admitted it to herself. She did not demand an explanation. She did not cling to broken promises. She simply walked away. Because real healing does not come from forcing yourself into someone else's new song. It comes from realizing that your own melody, even if it starts quiet, even if it starts shaky, is worth singing for yourself. And sometimes the most powerful music you will ever create is the one you write after the stage has gone dark. Madison's story touched the hearts of many. Because it is not just about losing someone you love, it is about finding the courage to let go when you realize you are no longer part of their future. Let us take a moment to hear what the Reddit community had to say. Their reflections are raw, honest, and deeply moving. "You Strings of Hope commented, when someone changes the song they are singing, you cannot force them to sing yours. You just have to start writing a new one." 7. 5K likes. Exactly. Holding on to someone who has already moved on only keeps you stuck in a story that is no longer yours. Oh, fading lyrics, too shared. The saddest part is not that he wrote a song for someone else. It is that he forgot who helped him find his voice in the first place. 8 likes. This comment hits so deep. Sometimes the ones who stood by us in the darkness are forgotten when the lights finally come on. You're quiet. Melody Sunt wrote, "She did not lose him. She freed herself from someone who no longer saw her worth." 4K likes. So well said. Letting go is not losing. It is choosing to stop begging for a love that should have been freely given. You Golden Guitar Dreams said, "Success changes people. Real love is the kind that stays grounded, no matter how high the world lifts you up." 7 likes. Absolutely, fame and success do not ruin relationships. They only reveal what was already fragile underneath. Oh, after thee. Applause commented, "Madison's strength was walking away quietly when she realized she deserved to be someone's only song, not just a forgotten lyric." 6K likes. Beautifully put. Sometimes walking away without a final performance is the most dignified ending you can give yourself. Thank you to everyone who shared their powerful thoughts and reflections. Madison's story reminds us that letting go is not weakness. It is the first note of a brand new song you write for yourself. If you have ever had to choose yourself over someone who forgot your worth, share your story in the comments below. And if you found strength in Madison's journey, remember to like and subscribe for more real stories of resilience, love, and healing.